So this is Lauren Steiner reporting from the last day of the California State Democratic Convention here in Sacramento. We have a bunch of people making signs, and the signs say, validate the votes. The three strikes, Hillary, Perez, Bauman. Tanya, you were live streaming outside the breakfast. What happened this morning?
Shame! 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 Cheater! 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 Cheater!
That now that Eric Bauman is our leader, that the Democratic Party can finally be unified.
Bullshit!
Let me ask you guys something. You know, 49% of the people that voted for Kimberly Ellis. Do you feel unified? No! Do you feel unified with the Democrats?
No!
Is it selection or is it election?
Selection!
Well, let me ask you one more thing, ladies and gentlemen. Are we going anywhere?
No!
Is the grassroots going anywhere?
No!
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like!
If their message was we're going to bind or, unite the party, they are failing miserably. Now we have more allies, and those Hillary people know exactly how we felt during primaries. I actually spoke to somebody about it. They're like, yeah, I understand.
Here at this state Democratic Party convention, we are ground zero for the fight for progress and the fight for human dignity and human rights. And if you're not with us, then okay, get out of our way, because we're going to continue to fight for you. But if we do not continue to fight very vocally and very visibly here, the cause is lost. To us, it's not. It was never Hillary versus Bernie. It was always about big corporation money influencing our political and democratic system. And here's the biggie. Eric Bauman, who has won this sucker so-called win, Proposition 61 here in California was going to cut Medicare expenses to the state. And
Prescription drug costs.
Prescription drug costs. You probably all remember Prop 61 went down with a boom. Bernie was even out here. And Bauman took money, I think it was $12,000 a month, to his company. I don't think that's right. That's a bad optic to me. And I'm telling you, the same kind of machinations are going on here. It's big business. It's big business. It's corporate Dems versus we the people. The color green in the state legislature, in the House, is for the people and what do we call it? Oh yeah, the land, the people who work and need help and protection. Because in the other side of the house, it's red, the color of nobility. And Eric Bauman works with nobility.
I've been doing a lot of writing about Eric. I'm pretty familiar with him. He was involved in some chicanery in the Democratic Party of Orange County a few years ago involving me. And I've kept a close eye on him, and I have a feeling that I know what he's capable of. And so it certainly wasn't a surprise to me when I started, hearing about what sounded like strange vote totals coming out.
Eric Bauman sent a letter to his supporters, and he also sent it to the press, basically saying...
that he was being called a pedophile?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a very strange thing. It sort of smacked of desperation as far as I was concerned. Because nobody that I know of in the Kimberly Ellis campaign had heard that rumor, and we're dealing with people who will respond to raising that sort of a thing, the idea of a false charge, by giving sympathy to the person who's been charged. And the amazing thing, the gall, is to use this idea of that somebody's calling bigotry against me, against a black woman who grew up in Tennessee.
So this is the statewide officer results. As you can see, it says Chair Eric Bauman. A lot of people made their flights to go home, and some of the delegates, if they need to re-vote or sign a petition or whatever, are not here.
We're having a fun time. Actually, it's very exciting. There's a tremendous amount of energy. Really feel like we were connecting with a lot of people, and and making progress. People are in pretty good spirits. I've seen a couple of middle fingers occasionally, but that kind of happens.
Both Bernie people and former Hillary people, are united in support of Kimberly because we acknowledge that the party needs serious structural reform at its core. And we were all rallying on the other side of the convention center here, going up to the private breakfast. We signed a petition and it was unclear whether the petition is for a recount or a revote. I believe it's for a recount of the votes. I'm not sure exactly what I can disclose at the moment for what we think is going on with the voting irregularities.
According to the information that we got is that the credentials were certified yesterday morning, and 2,600 people had registered, gotten their credentials, and then 2,900 people ended up voting. A lot of people ended up being credentialed at the very, very, very last minute, right before voting started. We aren't sure. We are trying to, the Ellis campaign is seeking legal assistance, counsel in trying to actually get the physical ballots, making sure that people who were voting were actually credentialed and were proper proxies from their proper regions, and not, proxies that were credentialed in the wrong way.
Kevin DeLeon, I saw him at the California Environmental Caucus, and I had heard from Kimberly's campaign manager that he had 30 delegates because he's Speaker Pro Tem. He has 30 delegates that he appointed, and he also he instructed them to vote for Eric Bauman, and he also instructed the 26 Democratic senators in the California legislature to vote for Eric Bauman. So I asked him, while he was trying to walk out of the room.
So wait, one quick question. I understand that you have instructed your delegates to vote for Eric Bauman. Is that true? And would you release your delegates to vote their conscience? He said my delegates are going to vote for who they're going to vote for.
So he didn't deny that he did that. He didn't say my delegates are going to vote how they want. He said they're going to vote how they're going to vote, which is like a tautological statement. I mean, it doesn't say anything. What do you think of that?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that's undemocratic. I know a lot of, assembly members and senators, they get to appoint people. Sometimes they are instructed to vote in one way. It's not like legally binding that they have to vote that way, but they know that their career is at stake if they don't follow the direction of their assembly member or a senator or whoever elected official who appointed them. So it's a way of really taking away the democracy in the process.
I think there's no question that it was made clear to the delegates that he selected with his superdelegate power that they were supposed to be voting for Bauman. And this is the same problem going back to the Bernie campaign, the same problem that we've been having over and over again with superdelegates, coming in and swinging the vote. We fought long and hard in the CADEM elections to get public people from our communities to represent the votes of the people. We held town halls in San Francisco and in other parts of the state before this convention to ask people, who do you want us to vote for? We had public discussions about this. It doesn't matter whether or not Kevin DeLeon said specifically to his delegates, I want you to vote for Bauman. He made it clear to them that they should vote for Bauman, and if they ever want to ride his coattails in anywhere else, they're going to vote for Bauman. He should have given his delegates equally to either candidates and simply left it at that and been impartial, and he absolutely was not impartial.
His handlers are here. He's got one handler, two handlers, press secretary, preventing me from asking this question. So obviously,
you're recording the pro tem's private conversations. Like you'll get your turn.
But
How will I get my turn if he's completely ignoring me? Because I was waiting patiently in line, and he turned to 3 other people instead of talking to me. Did you instruct your delegates to vote for Eric Bauman or not?
No, they could vote who they wanted to vote for.
So I think that intimidation is part of politics, it's part of the Democratic Party politics. I'm not surprised by it. I am disgusted, however, that the democratic process was not allowed to function properly. I think ultimately it will weaken the Democratic Party because if a party cannot actually reflect what the grassroots feelings are about what our government should look like, it's just going to become more and more irrelevant.
unfortunately, we were unable to elect the activist chair that we all supported, which was Kimberly Ellis. And it's very crucial for people to know that Kimberly Ellis was a Hillary Clinton supporter, which is significant because if the burners are getting behind her, you know that Eric Bauman must be pretty bad. Eric, I'm going to shout my question. Do you think you can lead a party where people think your election was illegitimate? What about the question about the super delegates, our version of the super delegates, people instructing their delegates to vote for you? What do you think about that? Do you think it should be changed? He said that he thought the election was not illegitimate, that he wants to unify the party, that he has to unify the party, and that when I asked him about the superdelegates, he said that's the way it is right now. I asked him if he thought that's the way that it should be, and he said it's to be talked about, and also that he authored the resolution with DeRocca to get rid of superdelegates. He seemed much nicer answering my question than he did at the Bernie-Hillary debate watch party, which some of you may have seen how he bullied me at that. But obviously he can afford to be nice now that he won his election.
I think there's some definite problems with the trusting of the vote at this time. There's probably some issues with if the voters were correctly identified, and one of the things that goes on is there's the ability to check if the votes were correctly counted because each sheet is identified with a voter, and what district they're from. So it's all tallied, and they can add it up.
Okay. Now, what was planned to do here today? My viewers are asking for a walkout, but I understand that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend a walkout. I think we need to keep our ears open and our eyes open, watching, and then we're going to also just act accordingly. If it looks like we're getting steamrolled, we have to complain.
We have a petition that is asking for a recount, and we plan to have an emergency resolution today on the floor asking for that recount, and we won't acknowledge the results until we complete that and we are satisfied that this has been a completely fair process. And it's a little bit like how Speaker Rendon talks about single payer. He says he's all for single payer, but then he says this isn't the time for it. So we have to say, are you going to change this system or are you not going to change the system? Are you for single payer or are you not for single payer? The doublespeak, unfortunately, causes a lot of problems within our party. And I'm sorry, I think it actually alienates a lot of people, too.
You know, there's a lot of signs with 3 strikes, and we had Bernie getting the election stolen from, the nomination stolen from him. We had Keith Ellison getting the election as DNC chair stolen from him, and now we have Kimberly Ellis getting her election stolen from her. What is it going to take for Bernie to realize that the Democratic Party is not going to change and that he needs to start the People's Party? And do you feel that the Democratic Party is not going to change? And are you ready to join a People's Party?
I am not ready to join a People's Party, but I certainly understand the motivation in wanting that. The reason why, I think, is because the Democratic Party is still the best possibility to affect change over the long term. This is 62 votes, potentially, if that is accurate. 62 votes. That's a huge difference. I mean, look at the ADEMs in themselves. In our own district, we had 70 people show up 2 years ago. This year we had 700. I think it's a little bit of a longer game, but we just can't give up. We have to get stronger. We have to be more organized.
I am a supporter of Eric Bauman because I am a policy person. I'm focused not so much on trying to reform the party, but on trying to get the bills that are California priorities through the legislature. It is my judgment, having known both of them, that Eric is far more suited to do so. He has excellent working relationships with many legislators. Kimberly is relatively new to the party. I told her that I would support her in 4 years if she ran in 4 years. I think that she does not yet have those relationships, and getting the bills passed is far more important to me than who runs the party. If you know me, you know that I do not believe in what I call the Green Lantern theory of change, in which you hope that one person will make change for you. Obama said, be the change you wish to be. Bernie Sanders says, it's not you, it's not me, it's us. And we all need to make the change we need to see, rather than rely on one single party chair. People have put way too much emotion into this race.
So is something going to happen here? Should I be situated right here?
We are waiting to see what the motions are passed, and we have a few actions that we're planning on pushing.
I just talked to the people over at that mic, and they said that the action's going to start on mic number 2. What can you tell us about it?
We're going to try to ask for some kind of a recall resolution and roll call and roll to order. I'm not really sure what they determined to do or not to do. One of the things we proposed was to try to ask for the thing to go out of order and to announce Kimberly and Eric as co-chairs by acclamation.
Wow.
So that would be a win for the party, because it would show unity, not just in California, but across the board. And it would really bring everybody together, as opposed to what's going on right now, which is a complete, shit show, to be honest with you.
We do the vote. That's my message.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Palo Alto.
And I see you have a lot of buttons on you. Were you a Bernie super volunteer?
I was a volunteer, not a super volunteer, but now I'm getting out there with the Democratic Socialists of America.
Right. Now, the Democratic Socialists of America gained a lot of members. In Los Angeles, we gained 1,000 new members. What do you think about that?
I think that's amazing. I think it's the future of progressive organizing in the United States. We're the largest socialist organization in the United States, 20,000 members, tripled since last year, and I think we're the way forward.
We are here to, on a procedural motion, ask that they do a roll call revote.
Now, do you think that Eric Bauman can unify this party?
I'm fearful that he can't.
How about you, Dr. Bell?
I don't know. It remains to be seen. But as far as I'm concerned, it's us. It's we, the people, who are going to unify the party. So I don't look to Eric. I would have preferred Kimberly. I still do. But, so I think it's up to us to unify the party.
For me, it really isn't about Eric. It's about the procedure and the integrity of the voting process. I think most of us I wouldn't be here right now if I felt 100% confident that the procedures and the voting were accurate and right.
What are they doing?
You're out of order. Get the order, let Fiona Monk. We have it on the agenda. Out of order. Out of order. Please help me welcome Fiona Monk.
We had two great candidates. Hillary Clinton was extremely qualified, experienced, and ready to lead. We also have Bernie Sanders.
Yeah! Bernie!
delegation.
Basically, we swept the officer positions within the caucus. Karen Burnell, who was the co-chair of the California delegation of the Bernie delegates to the DNC, won chair. She was the former chair at one point. Marlon Medrano, also a DNC delegate, won treasurer. Katrina Bergstrom, a delegate, won parliamentarian. Myself for central vice chair. Philip Kim, a Bernie super volunteer from Sacramento, won one of the at-large spots. And Liz LaVertue from San Diego, a Berner, won the other at-large spot.
How do you think that's going to affect the rest of the party, though, here in California? The fact that you swept the Progressive Caucus, which is kind of a no-brainer that you would.
Well, I think it enables us to have a home base where we can organize from. You know, beforehand, we didn't really have a base within the party. We just swept in through the ADEMs. So I know that myself, in my central vice chair role, I'm going to be organizing trainings within my region to get progressives on the ground who don't even know that this convention is happening right now involved, so that next year and the following years they can be here and we'll have more in our ranks.
Even if the vote was legitimate and he won legitimately, he won because of the superdelegates. What do you think can be done about the superdelegate system in California?
I think it needs to be removed.
Well, how are we going to do that? Because it's kind of like with the DNC and the Unity Commission. There's more Hillary supporters on the Unity Commission than Bernie supporters. And if they like the superdelegates because it keeps the establishment in power, how are we going to get it removed here in California?
Well, I believe it would have to go through the Rules Committee. You know, we'll just have to see. We'll have to definitely organize for it. But we also have to keep in mind that Kimberly was able to draw not only Bernie supporters, but Clinton supporters, so we could potentially have allies in that fight.
Amended or opposed. So if you
Right now, these delegates are trying to figure out how to do a point of order to question the vote, to verify the vote.
all 17 resolutions will be up to an up or down vote. If one or more are pulled, those will be set aside. We'll go past the other resolutions, and then we'll come back to it. That's the procedure. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Is there a second? Is there anybody who wishes to pull? So what's your point of order?
John Hanna, you pushed me. You assaulted me.
You're out of order. Is anybody wish to pull any of the motions?
Point of information. Robert's Rules of Order governs this body. Point of information.
You have to mic check this thing. You have to mic check it and get all these Kimberly supporters to repeat mic check to you. Mic check.
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. You're out of order.
Our resolution is the one to uphold tenants and renters' rights, and somebody just made a motion to pull this resolution so that they would be completely taken off the consent calendar. So we're here to support the resolution. There are 4 of us who are speaking in favor.
Many people are rent-burdened and cannot afford to live, and we as Democrats need to stand up for them, and there are many in this room, actually. Thank you.
Excessive rent increases and support rent stabilization. I want the actual terms in here because that's what's needed to change this, and for either at the city level or state level. I'm a city council member, and I can't tell you how many people approached me and said, I got a 60% rent increase. You have 35 seconds. All right, and we have no laws that prevent that, unfortunately. Does the Ms. Shannon, do you have any opposition to that amendment?
No, we would accept that amendment.
That amendment is accepted.
Housing is a human right. 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 Housing is a human right.
Stand up for the working class, our immigrant neighbors, our elderly, and our seniors and our families, because everybody needs housing. And are we for the people or are we for profits, right? We should be the party of renters, and housing is a human right.
Motion to support. Do I hear a motion to yes? As amended, all those in favor of the resolution as amended signify by saying aye. Aye! The ayes have it.
You just had your resolution passed unanimously.
Yeah, we're so excited.
It got the most applause of anything here. How do you take a resolution, like we have a resolution to ban fracking, and we still don't have a ban on fracking? How do we turn this into legislation?
You use it every time you go and lobby, every time you talk to anyone. Having people in this room talking to elected officials helps, and you just build the momentum, create the trend, and then you get it done. It took me like several years to get homeless legislation, starting maybe 10 years ago. So you just have to keep building the momentum, make sure that when you're endorsing candidates, so all of the people in here who are delegates will get an opportunity to take up endorsements. Make sure that before you take up endorsements, you're meeting with the candidates and letting them know where we are on this issue, and that we're not going to endorse unless they know and accept this, and we'll carry legislation like this in the legislature.
Great. Now, is the goal to also repeal the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins?
That's right.
And you have anybody to propose that legislation?
Actually, there was Richard Bloom put through some pretty amazing legislation this year, which I think one of them is going into a 2-year bill.
That was Susie Shannon. She is a DNC member in California, the only California DNC member who supported Bernie Sanders, but she also supported Eric Bauman.
42 years ago, I attended my first call of the Democratic Party convention. California Democrats are reigning supreme in this state, and John Burton deserves a lot of comment.
And we still have people at the mic trying to do a point of order. Kimberly has not organized her delegates to do anything on the floor, that she is working behind the scenes.
It's been an incredible experience for me. I've learned a tremendous amount. I've met a tremendous number of wonderful people. I've had great experiences and made many, many good friends. When I was trying to figure out what I was going to say, I realized that I had an overview that doesn't depend on the specific people we elected. It depends on us and the future we are creating together. I feel good about what we accomplished during the past 8 years, especially at how we work together to imagine and try to create a future where we could wean ourselves off of corporate financing, where we could lessen.
And what about the scandal with all the oil company money that was funneled through the Democratic Party in California? She's not mentioning that.
Where we can build a vast organizing movement financed by union members and by individual donations from California's millions of registered Democrats. What a beautiful road that would be to travel. But we are on the verge of losing this. Are we ready to tackle the challenges of a very uncertain future? How will we do that when we degenerate into rancor and blame at the slightest provocation? I know this is a stretch, but sometimes I think we need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, like Bishop Desmond Tutu administered in South Africa.
Yeah, we need to validate the vote. These delegates are very disunited. They did not make a plan for this today. You know, partly because the delegates were organized by Kimberly, by the campaign, unlike at the DNC where we had our own organizers. So because Kimberly is not calling for a protest or a challenge here, her delegates are disunited.
We are blaming each other, holding on to our self-righteous indignation, focused on our resentments and slights, real offenses, real wounds. But is this the best way we can proceed? No. Is this how we will defeat the enemy? I want to be clear. I am not saying forget the past. I am not saying get over it. It is in us. We have to live with this. But I am asking you, what do you need to hear? What do you need to say? Can you tell each other what you need? Can we listen to each other? Can we hear the pain, the disappointment, the words from the heart? And can we forget? We have to figure out how to talk to each other. We have to figure out how to hear each other. And we have to figure out how to forgive each other. I am really trying hard to be hopeful that we can do this. But it's not up to me. It's up to me and to you. It's up to us.
Okay, now, you know that Hillary Crosby was the #2 person in Kimberly Ellis's campaign, and yet she just gave a hope and changey Obama type of speech, calling for unity and forgiveness. What did you think of that?
Well, no, as it happens, I actually am a human rights activist from Argentina, where we had one of those truth commissions. And I have worked on truth and reconciliation commissions in other countries. They don't work. It happened in South Africa because they had to avert an actual civil war where people were going to get killed. But it wasn't an optimal solution there, and it has never been an optimal solution anywhere where the purpose of the solution of the reconciliation commission is just to get over the past. Right now, what we're talking about is how do we go forward in the future? How do we get rid of corporate, the influence of corporate money? How do we end having consultants that get paid, that do sell the party to the highest bidder? And that is not something we can resolve. We cannot sit at a table and some of us say, well, yes, it's okay for us to take farm money and others say, no, it's not. There is no reconciliation in that. So what I think is that she may need to say that as an officer, but what we need to do is actually fight for our ideal, fight for an actual clean democracy, fight for a democracy that's going to deliver actual justice and social change and a clean environment and everything that we want. And we're not going to do that by reconciling with people who are on the other side of the table, even if they call themselves Democrats.
You're not recognized right now for a point of order, so...
He just did not
You get your goddamn chance, so please, all your brave heroes. That's not unity! I'll give you unity. All of you leave and I'll be here alone. I had a meeting with Kimberly and her consultant and the staff of the nurses union who kind of had a small part in her campaign. Kimberly had requested that she, and not today, but would be able to review the ballots, check the signatures, see that everything corresponded to that, and of course, we agreed to it. Well, that's it. She did not ask for a recount. She did not ask to delay the proceedings. She just wanted to be able to look to her supporters who did a lot of work, who came from nowhere to being close to say that she is personally satisfied that everything was on the up and up. Now, somebody's got point of orders, make a point of order, and it can be ruled out of order or in order depending on...
Point of order, Mr. Chairman!
Okay,
Point of order, Mr. Chairman!
For what purpose does the member rise?
I rise to be recognized. Point of order. My name is Kelly Welsh-Dwyer. I'm a delegate from Assembly District 11.
Good.
I would like to know when the results of the election of the chair of the California Democratic Party will be submitted to the body, to all delegates.
That's out of order.
I appeal.
Appeal the rule of the chair. Second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of overruling the chair, say aye. Well, the problem is that after the election was held, a lot of people left, so we really don't know. There's no provision to have a vote except the way it was held, which was before. So,
pursuant to CDP bylaws, Article 4, Section 7F, I respectfully demand that a chair election recount be completed by roll call. I further demand that this request be presented to the floor for standing vote to be approved by at least 300 members pursuant to Article 4, Section 7D.
CDP bylaws provide, as I think just about everybody knows, for the election of statewide officers. That statewide election took place.
No result!
There are no other provisions in the bylaws to have a recount, but to have a revote on the floor. The section that you are referring to, Section 7F, it has to do with motions that are already in order, that the person may use that section to call for a roll call vote if there are 300 members upon approval. But because the motion itself to have a recount is out of order as a direct violation of the bylaws, the motion itself is also out of order.
Mike 3.
Delegates, I am Skylar Temple, 8075, Region 18. I am making a motion to have a recount of all ballots and making sure that we have a complete, transparent recounting of all ballots for a full and total comprehensive study of all ballots, including those that were disqualified.
I second the motion.
What? Appeal the ruling. I appeal the ruling.
How exactly?
They are doing discussion with Kimberly. They are counting the ballots. They're going to look through every ballot.
He didn't say they were counting.
He told us what to do the results of
your stage. To continue.
I have 513 signatures of delegates. Calling for the recount.
What?
I'm appealing the ruling of the chair. Because I have the signature of 513 delegates calling for
Calling for a re-vote on the floor today will still be out of order.
Suspend the bylaws.
There's already been an agreement.
I told you to suspend the bylaws. That's what I told him before.
As soon as it's practical, a new counting of the ballots on the election that's already been conducted will be conducted. That's not a problem. There cannot be a bylaws re-vote of any statewide officer.
Suspend the bylaws.
Suspension of the bylaws, which is never a
I am Rebecca Taylor from AD 78, and I'm making the motion to suspend the bylaws.
I second.
There is no bylaw, that's not, you know, I mean, if you're goddamn unhappy with life, be unhappy with life. I mean,
contingency here, demanding that the rules be suspended and that there be a recount.
Point of order! 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 Point of order!
And Hillary Crosby is the number 2 person in Kimberly's campaign.
Kimberly Ellis to run on the chair. It's time for our party, that our party needs this voice, that our party needs her perspective and her vision. I think she's an amazing, intelligent, vibrant, inspirational, dynamic woman, a great Democrat, and she would make a great leader for our party. I believe that this solution that she and our team have proposed and that the leadership of the staff and Eric Bauman have accepted as a way to proceed is actually the best way to proceed that we have. No! You just couldn't hear what I need to say, so
what do you think?
I'm going to take personal privilege and I'm going to say what I need to say, and I hope I'm going to say it with an open heart. We have to have confidence in our process.
Then address the points of order! Address the points of order!
Time machine. No one in this room has invented the time machine for us to get into and go back to tomorrow morning.
We have no faith because you won't address our points of order!
But there is a trail of what we did. I always liken it to Hansel and Gretel throwing pebbles behind them to mark the trail where they came from. The trail that we have are signed proxy forms,
it's full of corruption.
It's signing sheets, it's signed ballots. The ballots are preserved.
It's a trail of corruption.
The proxy sheets are preserved, and everyone's signature is on file. Using the documentation that's available, reconstruct I, Kimberly, and Eric, and the people also on Eric's team and the rest of the people on Kimberly's team can go before even these results. We believe democracy was served. We gave a chance for people's voices to be heard. And now we have a future that we can build together. But we cannot do that. Process! We cannot do that unless we can come and put our belief into a process.
Kimberly is okay with this process. What do you think about that?
You know, Kimberly may be okay with the process, but this is a democracy, right? It's not about Kimberly, it's about us. It's about what the delegates that joined the Democratic Party in order to transform it into people's or a party want. Everybody needs to be feel listened to, not just the Kimberly campaign.
What about Kimberly wants? This is fucking democracy.
It's about us. It's about us.
No content.
New chair of the California State Democratic Party.
I also want to thank the coalition of organized labor and young Democrats and grassroots activists and veteran and new members who stood with me and voted for me. But I want to thank everybody who voted for me today. You know, I know a lot of you wore pink yesterday, and many of you are still wearing pink today. But we need to walk out of here wearing blue, because that's what...
Kimberly Ellis delegates walking out right now. We're walking out. Kimberly Ellis delegates walking out.
Yes, we're walking out. Have you spread this message yet?
What's the message?
Please, for all of our supporters, come to 10th and 65th Park. Kimberly's going to desk supporters at 1:45. We need to be there, please.
All right. He's up on the stage with his people, but there's no unity. All the Kimberly people are walking out.
Caesar Chavez Park. Kimberly Ellis. Let's go. Hey, we need that money.
All of the Kimberly delegates have just walked out of the California State Democratic Party convention.